I am Bruno Genovese. I am a lawyer since 1990 at the Bar of Nice. As to Leaseback, it started in 2013 or 2014, actually, with a residence called Le Petit Lac in Mandelieu, La Napoule, not far from yours. And one of my clients suggested that I did this meeting, the same as today, to tell everyone, how to get out of trouble. At that time, they had an empty swimming pool for 2 years. Several action with the management company had been taken by a predecessor, and it didn't really move the needle. And so I came in and I did a bit of magic, and within 6 months, the huge pool that they had was fixed at the cost of the management company, which was MMV at that time. And then I work the problem of leaseback step by step with them. As many people in France, nobody knew really what was hidden in those contracts, and it's even today very difficult to figure out without a good legal understanding who is what and what is under in fine prints or under the French law of commercial lease. They have been very happy of the main result, which was to get rid of their commercial lease, and that's at no cost to them, no exit fee, no penalty, and I'm going to explain how this can be done. And from what I heard, you are very, very in a similar position where, in fact, instead of getting your full rent every quarter, the guaranteed rent, it's always guaranteed in the French leaseback, you have deductions. Sometimes it's deductions to repair the dishwasher, or anything is good to reduce the rent. And you don't really have a say to it, like most of the people in other groups that I have. The management company is imposing on you those deductions, and nobody can really fight individually, and you have absolutely no say to it. And this is wrong, it's illegal, but they do it. So the other thing is charge de copropriété. The building has general maintenance, the elevators, the roof, the garden, etc. So that's different. It's what is called a syndic, which is a company that is handling all the repartition of the cost between owners. They take the whole cost into a budget every year. They set up a general meeting. So the charge de copropriété has been increasing tremendously in the last 4 or 5 years at both of the properties I'm taking care of. So that's basically how I came up to discover that world of leaseback. Not in fact, I knew because I did some commercial lease for clients who had shops in France. And most of the shops, when you go to France and you see on the street the bakery, the butcher, and they have a commercial lease. But what happened is the government, actually the Ministry of Finance back in 2002 or 2003, did use that pretty good instrument for commerce, for, like I said, shops down the street. They use that as a tool to lock you up for 9 years and to basically give all the power to the tenant. Unfortunately, to get out of it, because it's set in the law for little shops who need to be protected, so that after 9 years, the owner of the walls of the shop don't kick him out and put somebody there at a better price, etc. So there is a device in the law that says that If you want after 9 years to get out of your lease, yeah, you can, but you have to pay an indemnity, an exit fee or exit penalty to the tenant. So that's okay if you want to stay, sell your petit pain, baguette, etc. for years to come. You're not going to say, "Oh, I want to go out." Maybe you open another shop, but you don't get out of your shop. So that's why this device was in the law. But for tourist residents, it's totally inappropriate because you're locked up. And if you want after 9 years to, get your freedom to rent directly, well, no, you have to pay me 2 or 3 years of revenues. So that's where the problem is today, and it's been like that for the last 15, 16 years now, that the rent is not made on time. The rent is not paid in full. There's too many deductions that were not agreed upon. There's no consent. And all that has not been disclosed at the time you were sold that beautiful property in south of France where you could retire and make it yours after 9 years, etc. Most of the time, they never tell you that after 9 years, if you want to get out, you have to pay an exit penalty. So that's mis-selling and misrepresentation. So basically, the whole package that you have been sold uh, could have been reviewed by the notaire, the French lawyer that signed the deed with you. But most of the time here, it's again, you're not coming to France. You're not coming inside physically at the notaire's office. Some people did, but the notaire is not telling you all those issues with the commercial lease. And therefore, because you sign in your homeland with a notary public, which is really nothing like a French notaire, notary public is just to affirm that you are the right person that matches the signature on the paper. So a French notaire is a lawyer like me, but specialized in real property. So it's very different because a notaire in France can advise and has a duty to advise you about what you're about to sign and what happens, with the different contracts that are supposed to be attached, like the commercial lease. And the issue is once you sign at the notaire, that's it. It's pretty much it. Your mortgage is attached to the deed. Once you have collected, some question, whatever, then you set up the group, the same group basically, but separate, where your lawyer can come in and receive an invitation and discuss with you live on audio or video. You don't have to set up a Zoom conference, but if you want, it's okay, it's fine. So that's how it works internally for you to be on top of things without really spending too much time. And by the time you do that, within a month or two, you'll figure out that everybody has the same issues. And then when you connect with your lawyer, he's going to say, oh yeah, for that kind of thing, like let's say if you have too many deductions, there is a breach of contract. This way you can get out of your commercial lease and you don't have to pay any exit fee. And then what happens after that? But Iraq is 280 apartments, so it's pretty big. And the mayor of Mandelieu was saying, if you don't have a commercial lease, then I go after you for change of destination and all kind of threats of penalties of 40, 50,000 euro for changing the use from tourist residence into Airbnb. Well, the problem is that there is no change. If you don't have a commercial lease, it's still a tourist residence. It's not a full ownership of an apartment. Like, if you buy something in Cannes or in Nice on your own, that would be a complete package of the apartment itself belongs to you. End of the story. You do whatever you want with it. And if one day you put it on Airbnb to rent over the summer, then you may have to pay something to the buyer if you didn't do the right thing, like declare it and etc. But this is not the case with Le Cristal, Royal Cap, Le Petit Lac, and hundreds of tourist residents. And therefore, the administrative tribunal of Nice, told the mayor of Mandelieu to get lost and say, you cannot do that. This is a tourist residence. And when people don't have any more commercial lease, it's still a tourist residence. And they still have the right to rent it uh, directly, individually, as a tourist residence. And that is very big because after you exit your commercial lease, you can put it on Airbnb, and you'll find what is called concierge. And I have a few that I work with in south of France that could work with your building, and just to handle the key. It's not required by law that you handle the key, but someone has to be there, of course, to grant each tourist coming in into your apartment. And also there is an advantage because you got the VAT, the TVA discount at the very beginning from when you bought. You didn't have to pay the VAT. And in order to keep that and not to have to reimburse proportionally to the number of years that remain out of 20 years, but I don't want to go into details here. But if you rent and you offer 3 or 4 services to the people that come in, like with Airbnb, so accueil, reception, and breakfast, for instance, if you want to, but you don't have to. But at least to do the cleaning before and after, or to offer the sheets, change the sheets, do the laundry. Then you can keep your taxation, VAT exoneration for the rest after you quit the commercial lease. Until you have a commercial lease, the management company does this. But once you don't have a commercial lease, you will hire a concierge. They usually take a fee between 15-20% of the rent, but they also take care of all the rental. The posting on Airbnb takes time, and you have to devote some research as to how you advertise your property. So you hire that kind of concierge. The contracts are, I do those contracts with my own concierge. It's a 1-year contract, renewable expressly, so it doesn't renew automatically. You have to say, yes, I want to renew, and you can break it at any time. So I think it's a pretty good deal because you get 80% of any Airbnb rent, and very quickly in 3 or 4 rent, you already match 3 months of what you get today with the management company that makes all the deduction. And if there is anything broken, well, okay, yes, you will have to, fix it, and your concierge will look at, present you with 2 or 3 quotes from local providers, plumber, etc., which is not the case today. You are imposed repair costs without having a say to see different quotes when you're your own boss at renting with Airbnb. And I say Airbnb, it could be Airbnb and other web platform. Of course, you're free to have it on as many platforms as you want. But this is because until that decision of the Tribunal Administrative of Nice of 2023, people, and my clients too, were afraid to do that because they didn't want to have the mayor on their back claiming a breach of the building permit, that all of a sudden they transform their apartment into something else than a tourist residence rental, etc., etc. Now it's clear, it's in writing, and I shared that with my client already. But there is life after breaking your commercial lease with no penalty due to the fact that they were deducting too many things from the rent. And just as a matter of fact, if some of you have been in your life renting something in Ireland, I doubt that you could decide on your own to deduct some repair that you made or some addition that you did to the property and say, oh, landlord, I pay you only 100 because I bought a beautiful washing machine for 400 this month. The following month, you say, oh, I bought a new stove, etc., and all that without asking the landlord his advice. Well, that's exactly the situation today here. Nobody is asking you anything, and they keep repairing stuff without any control, without any bid. And that is where I say the chances are, from what I heard from my client, that they have been breaching your commercial lease by not paying in full what you are owed. The system should be they pay you the rent that was promised at the beginning. The rent is increased under control of the French law at every 3 years. You have a revision of the rent up or down, and the rent is paid in full. Now, every time they have something that they need to fix, well, there's a discussion. Is it something that I should repair because I'm the owner or not? Well, the civil code say if it's heavy duty reparation, like the ceiling and the walls and something very big, yes, it's your duty because you own the wall. You are the owner of the wall. But if it's anything else, this is the common maintenance of someone renting the place commercially. They have to take care of those things by deducting automatically from your rent. This is opening the door to cancel the lease. Now, of course, to cancel the lease, you have to do a certain procedure and all that, but you have to send a notice, etc. I don't want to go into detail. One last thing is about some of my clients have been in trouble with the banks because they could not make the payments, and the banks actually are repossessing the apartment by putting them on auction, public auction. It's a procedure that takes about 4 to 6 months altogether, and this is something that is very difficult to fight back, uh, other than gaining some time to sell or resell the apartment before it goes to public auction. So that's the last item is how do I resell and forget the headaches and everything? How can I resell? Well, I work with a company named Sexton. They have offices in the UK, in London, and they have offices in France. And they are very specialized. They have a beautiful website where they explain a lot of things about leaseback and how to evaluate and how to get good buyers. You sign a contract with them, sometimes exclusive, sometimes not. And there is a fee. They take on average 10% of the sale price as a commission. A real estate broker in France for regular apartments, regular villa or whatever, they take between 5 and 6%. It's free. They could take 50%, but you would not sign any contract like that. But the average fee on a normal property, not a leaseback, is around 5-6%. You have also the notary cost, etc., that is paid by the buyer. So basically, your only cost is 10% of the selling price that goes to Sexton. There's other companies that do that, but me, I work with them and I have no problem so far. My client has always been paid and everything went fine. So this is the last thing. The resale part is important because it's your other way out. There's two way out, not three. Airbnb, etc., and you rent on your own by hiring a concierge that take 15 to 20% of the rental, and you get paid every month and by the concierge, actually by Airbnb. Um, and then you have the other one is to resell and at a good price. So if you have no problem with your bank and you repaid all the mortgage already, that's pretty fair deal. If you have a repossession ongoing, or if it's something that you might consider a possibility that the bank goes after you after a while of not paying the rent, then you better off doing that resale through any broker. You don't have to go through Sexton. I mean, I can give you other addresses, but that's the one I personally am very comfortable. They're very good. They have been very good with my clients, and again, I don't make a dime. I don't make a 1% or anything. Or I just I'm a lawyer. I'm not a real estate broker. And the thing is, when you have that resale and you have trouble with the bank will be paid first. So when the notaire distributes the price of the sale, the bank is sure to get paid. And I've seen most of apartments on public auction are sold between 80,000 to 120,000, and they were bought between 180 to 300,000. So that gives you an idea. It's really horrible. You don't want to go to a public auction. So what happens is that you tell the judge that you have a contract with a real estate broker that you are actively looking to sell. The judge gives you 3 or 4 months. Usually it's about 3 months, but you can extend 1 more, 3 months, and then you try to sell it because the bank is not opposing that. They're going to get more because if they get, let's say, it's sold directly at 160 on a public auction, the bank would have only 80 or 90,000, and here they would have 160,000. So if the bank has, if the mortgage owed to the bank is still like 250, the bank would get all, of course, but then you don't have the bank on your back. So this is why I say that the last thing is the exit strategy of resale. It's very important to do it either way. The bank is after you, you do it, and the bank is not after you, but you want to stop the headaches, you do it. So it's been a pleasure to explain you that. Now I want to have more like an open feedback and questions that you can say.
Yeah, so I've been tortured with French leaseback for since it started. I lost one. I've one down in Royal Cap, which I've maintained, and I've one here in the Crystal. The one in Royal Cap is the one that's up in court the next couple of weeks, and it's amazing. It's exactly the same issues that we're seeing here: maintenance issues, overcharging issues, not getting rent issues, and what I would call vulture buyers then hanging around making ridiculous offers to try and buy the place off you. And I think one of the the issues we have in the Crystal is, and thanks to James, the place really hasn't been maintained over the last few years, and it has led to some real serious issues that, from an engineering perspective, we've got, and there's been huge negligence on behalf of the management companies in terms of what's going on and what is happening with the building and the deterioration in terms of, I suppose, the value of the investment. The second is the charges that we've been getting from heaters to air conditioners to baths to machines to everything. And I think your clarity tonight around, if they're going to torture us for 9 years on a commercial lease, then they have to take the pain of the commercial lease on their behalf and have the full responsibility for that. So I think we've all suffered and we've all had to pay out and have paid and have challenged crazy charges over the years. The last, or not the last, the next one then will be the rent. I mean, COVID came and our rent was cut. But you try and book a room in this place over the summer months, or even on an extended period, or even people going down there this time of the year can't even get access to their own apartment. So there's a lot of stuff going on that is not reflected in terms of the rent that we're getting. And I suppose the last piece is the valuations of the apartments at the moment are based on the rental income that's coming in and will be there probably for the next, I know how long we've left on the lease, is it 3 or 4 years? And that's kind of suppressing everything in terms of getting value or getting money back out of this thing. So I think it's almost identical in profile to what went on in Royal Cap. And I think there's a real opportunity here. But there's two fights going on here with the management companies. One is the maintenance, and then the rest is the revenue. And I think the only way we're going to get any of that sorted out, I believe, is some form of a legal action and or threat and or, there's X number of tenants here that have got together, and they're coming after you for all of this. So things need to change real fast in terms of either you up the rent, you you return all the charges, and there's no penalty for getting out of this lease when the time comes. So that's just my tuppence worth. Is I'm so frustrated with this whole thing over the last years. I've lost an absolute fortune on it. I'm subsidizing the mortgage on this thing for the last 15 years, just because the rent, which started out covering it, now doesn't cover it at all. So this is just the greatest disaster of all time.
Yeah, and thank you for confirming this. Again, I'm not talking out of a book. I'm talking out of real life situation with other clients just like you. There have been also a lot of writing. in the news and all that. And incidentally, the Irish Commission of Protection of Consumer, I forgot the letters, but the Irish Commission has made what is called a referral to the French counterpart, the French Commission that protect consumer rights. And they were referring mis-selling and very, very clearly saying everything that you are saying and everything that I witnessed myself with my client is in that report, which has not been published because it's now in the hand. It's been in the hand of the for Le Petit Lac, actually. There are 3 properties that were reported to the prosecutor, the criminal prosecutor of Grasse, is Le Petit Lac, and then 2 others, but they are not my clients, so I don't know about the 2 others. They are named in the report from the commission. I could share the link later for those who are interested in reading that. So that commission said there has been mis-selling, it's illegal. It tells the French Commission of Protection of Consumer, could you please investigate? The French Consumer Protection Agency does investigate, find the same thing, and then by law, that commission is not a tribunal, right? They have to transmit to the prosecutor. The local prosecutor has been sitting on that for 2 years, and the local prosecutor actually is maybe investigating, but nobody has heard about it, but is not really actively communicating on that. Maybe, as some of my clients say, maybe it's because a prosecutor in France depends on the executive branch, when a judge depends on the justice branch. So the prosecutor is in fact part of the same government that 15, 20 years ago created that monster of French leaseback, with commercial lease and all kind of stuff that are not proper to rent, to tourists. You don't need a commercial lease for that, but unfortunately, the law was made by the French government. So maybe also, being a prosecutor and having a lot of complaints locally with violence and all that, it's easier to go after, either big crime or petty crimes than going after economic crime like this. So I decided, and my clients followed me, to press charges with investigative judge, and that is about 3 weeks ago, just around Christmas. So now we have a criminal case, the second one in France, actually. The first one for me, but it's the second one in France, against the bad actors of French leaseback. So I just want to add that to say there is a criminal aspect to that. So that gives also another way of fighting back. But the most important thing, Edan and everyone here, is to know, not me, but for you to know as owners what really you want. Some owners want just to get rid of the headaches, and they're just ready to lose more money, but they just want to sell and bye-bye. Some owners want to have a chance to rent it themselves. And like I said, there are some locals that would handle the key and all that, so that's not a problem. And they go through different platforms, Airbnb, etc., and they make a lot of money. I mean, some of my clients have I started that in 2015 when I got them out of the first lease at Le Petit Lac, and they make a lot of money because over the summer they can rent around 1,500, 2,000 for a 2-bedroom, where people come, and sometimes you have 2 different. You have 2 couples coming in and sharing the cost, etc. So also you have the festival, the Grand Prix of Monaco, the Cannes Film Festival, but there are other festivals where you can rent between, I would say, April and September at a much higher price. And all that, if you do it directly over Airbnb, you got the proceed immediately. You don't have to wait 3 months for someone to give you 15% of it, because they take 85% for themselves in alleged repair, maintenance, etc., that they don't even provide properly. So it's very interesting to I mean, if I were in your shoes, to group yourself and look and say, some of you want to get rid, and then that means uh, resell through brokers like Sexton. Some of you say, oh, well, no, I want to do Airbnb. Okay. But at the bottom line, you got to get free and break your lease, break free from the lease without paying exit penalty. And you also have to look into the management of the common area. I think you have Nardi, and I have Nardi as an actually. As a matter of fact, at Le Petit Lac. So I can say that I'm not really, and my clients are really not happy about the way the charge did rise with Nardi. Before it was Foncia, but Foncia, it was more like a relational issue. They were kind of rude with my clients before I stepped in, actually. They were not translating in English anything, etc. So my client wanted to get rid of Foncia. I got rid of Foncia, didn't renew the contract. And then they picked Nardi. One of the person knew Nardi, and Nardi came in. At that time, I didn't know Nardi, so I could not say yes or no. And it's not my place as a lawyer to make a call on who is going to be your syndic. But it happens that under my watch with Foncia, it was a budget of 300,000 euro per year at the Petit Lac. And after Nardi stepped in and managed for 4 years, 5 years actually now, we are at close to €1 million, 3 times more charge than it was before. And there has not been a 3 times more cost increase in France for electricity, water, etc. So there's a big problem here. So that's if you want to get rid of your commercial lease, it's doable because of non-payment of the rent in full every quarter. If you want to sell, it's doable because there are brokers are specialized in leaseback, and I know one of them, and I'm happy with him, Sexton. And if you want to rent on your own, you would still, if you didn't sell, you would still have to consider an action with actual syndic to review the management of the maintenance by that syndic. And this is something also that needs to be done separately. So basically, before you even come back to me or go to any lawyer that someone recommends to you, and it's fine with me, you would have to yourself do a little bit of homework in, like I say, creating a little group like this one, but you can also do it, of course, I say WhatsApp, but you can do it on Zoom. And you debate and you talk with each other and see, who wants to sell, who wants to rent on Airbnb, and who wants to keep it the way it is. Some people just say, no, I'm fine, it's okay. And it's fine too. Then you can come back to me or to anyone that you pick. And I say anyone you pick, but in your group, you have some French people, so maybe they know some French lawyer. Unfortunately, some French lawyers, some I know a lot of lawyers in France because it's my job for almost 30 years now, but they don't really speak good English. And it happens to be that I married an American woman and we have 3 kids that are American, and I share my time between Los Angeles and Nice. So I speak good English because I'm here with her, and we speak always. Like right now, I'm calling you from Los Angeles, but I was in Nice 3 weeks ago.
Can I ask? I see James wants to ask a question there. I am conscious of the time. There's only about 10 minutes left. James, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bruno, thanks very much for letting us join, I suppose, the Zoom call. Really what I want to ask there is, I've done a comprehensive survey on Le Crystal building, and we're looking at major works that need to be done on the roof in particular, which could be anything from 600,000 euro up to €1 million. We have an air conditioning system as well, which needs to be replaced, which is going to cost, could be somewhere between 100, 150,000 euro. The question I have is, Over the years, a lot of this work wasn't maintained properly. And we'll say, for instance, we had a leak in the basement that led to 3 inches of water in the basement last year because the pumps weren't properly maintained. So the question I have to ask is, if there was that money coming in over the years, I don't see any major fund in the accounts. There might be 50, 60,000 euro. Who is actually responsible? Is that going to fall back on us as owners to pay for that maintenance going forward?
There's two kind of thanks. That's something that I had to face at Royal Cap, actually. Not really. I would look at Iraq a little bit, but mostly at Royal Cap. Leak on the roof is mostly the syndic must have insured the property with an insurance company for this kind of stuff. So when there are some maintenance issues that are very important, the insurance company comes in, look at it, and usually take care of it. The problem is if there is no insurance or proper coverage, there could be insurance but not proper coverage or not, that would be the responsibility of the syndic, who has not done the proper job, because the syndic basically represent all the owners. And just like if you are in a villa, it would be the head of the family. And then the syndic has to maintain and take the reasonable steps to protect the walls.
That is exactly the way that I would have thought, Bruno, that it should have been. And at last year's AGM, I produced a report on the building about 6 weeks before the AGM. And I asked that question. I came over here to the AGM and I asked that question at the AGM. Where is the insurance for repairing, doing the temporary repairs even for the building? Because what we have at the moment is we have water going from the roof down through all floors of the building into the basement. And it has been for the last 2.5 years. And it's causing significant damage. And it has been ignored by whoever is responsible, whether it's Nardi, who's our syndic, or I don't think Vakansol are responsible for that. I think it's probably Nardi, but somebody is responsible for keeping the building in good order, and it's a major problem because if we go to sell, the problem is that has been in the minutes from the Union Council, and that will affect our overall capital sum that we would get for the apartment if these issues are not actually resolved. So the question there becomes, who is actually responsible for that? And the money that was taken in for the last 15 years, is that there to recover it? Or is it a case that we should be going after Nardi for this particular money for breach of contract?
Yes, and that's a real issue because you have different actors. Nardi is one, and that means lawsuit, whatever the solution is. If they don't move, you have to follow them. There's different ways to do lawsuits. Of course, you can have, in that case, a référé, which is a fast track lawsuit. But the référé is more like to get an expert to come in and to say what really the problem is, this and that, and then remit a report. Long story short, 18 months down the line, you're still with the expert drawing the report, and the expert is doing that most of the time because there's always arguments, discussions. It's not me, it's you, and the classic in business like this, where Nardi would say it's not my responsibility, it's this guy, whatever. Anyway, so it takes a long time to get resolved through I would say the judiciary, because the French courts are not that fast at all. And like I say, if I were to take the case against Nardi and I were to go the fast track, it's called référé, which is a fast track part of the tribunal judge, it would take about roughly, I would say 3 years before you get a good judgment that validates what's the findings from the expert. And 3 years is a long time. If you want to sell, it would still be a problem. So this is something that I would say should be handled differently. Again, I've been, in those cases, and I've been a construction lawyer. I had developers as a lawyer. I've been with clients that were building l'Arenas in Nice. So I'm very familiar with how to force participants into, or to corner them. The thing is, you get an order from a judge to tell he or Nadi to do their homework and to fix things under a penalty, a daily hefty fine or hefty penalty of 10,000 euro or whatever. And here it's not something that would go to be paid by the owners. Yes, the syndic represents the owners, but here you sue the syndic himself. And you don't sue, actually. You get an order from the judge that force the syndic to do this, and that, based on the report that you have made. For instance, this report is submitted to a judge, and it's done without any defense. The Nadi is not coming there, or any, I say Nadi, but it could be anyone. So once you get that order, it gives directions to someone like here, Nadi, to proceed with whatever you told the judge. And if they don't do or don't move whatsoever, then of course they would have to pay fines, daily fines, for resisting a court order. Now, of course, they can counter that by, at their time, then they would come and they would go back to that judge and say, I disagree, etc. But the good thing is that you reverse the timing, you reverse the clock. You have a judge that tell them to do something, and then they dispute that. They have the right. They would go back to the judge, and then everybody's together. They have their lawyer. You have your lawyer. But at the same time, the first order, if it holds, they would have to pay the 10,000 a day or whatever penalty you obtain in 3 years from now. So usually they don't drag their feet, and they just do the work. And that's how I got them to do that huge swimming pool that was broken for 2 years. A huge swimming pool of, it's like 500 square meters or something like that, of a huge swimming pool at Le Petit Lac, and people could not rent anymore. And MNV brought some kind of a plastic swimming pool to put in it. Anyway, it was a disaster. And 2 years and 3 lawyers succeeded. They tried to, get a, before I came in, it was in 2012 and 2013. And they tried the classic way of référé and, fast track and expert and all that. They got nothing. And when I came in, I just obtained it within 6 months with what I just told you. The system I have is pretty efficient, because nobody wants to offend a judge and have a penalty that can double and triple over the course of 3 months if they still resist. So that's how I would do. I would obtain a judge to give an injunction, it's called like that, injunction for relief, the injunction to fix, whatever you found, the roof, the maintenance of the water pump in the garage or wherever, and then based on that, they would be on the defensive. Instead of you taking the matter in your own hand in front of a regular court and having to, on top of it, you have to pay up front the expert cost when you go the fast track way. You have to, the expert send you the bill. So imagine that. So here it's the way I would say it's get an injunction from a judge at the Tribunal Judiciaire, have that injunction assorted with hefty daily penalty, which is called astreinte, A-S-T-R-E-I-N-T-E, astreinte, it's Australian, astreinte. So injunction with astreinte on Nadi to do whatever repair you list there. Of course, the judge is not a technical judge. He doesn't know, but if you give the report that you have and it's, it's been validated that during the AGM, you mention it, etc., it gives more credibility to your request. So that's what I would do here.
Yeah, what we done was, when I done the report, we met at the AGM and we got it passed to bring in a professional French engineer here to go and investigate the work that needed to be done. They were supposed to do that within a few months. And we're now over a year and 3 months later. We've had, I suppose, about 20 or 30 different leaks down through the building, which I have filmed and sent on, etc. in relation to that. We even had the fire brigade here pumping out the end of the basement of the building. So it was quite significant. The insurance thing is interesting. I would have thought that there would have been insurance for to actually go and cover this, and they would have come in straight away. And even, as I said, they should have even come in and done a temporary job on it to find what the problem was, for to temporary solve it, and then look at that if it's further maintenance later on. Thank you very much for answering the question for me. Thank you. Cheers.
If you need to extend me, I don't have any other. It's just for you because it's late for you. But I have with my Zoom, I don't have a limited time, so we can extend if you need a little bit.
Bruno, I just have a couple of questions there. You talked about. I mean, I have considered reselling the apartment, obviously, and I did. I think go to Sexton. You're the company that you mentioned a little while, but it's a few years back. Now, they obviously did their assessment based on the current rental income, and they value the apartment based on that, which probably turned out to be half the value of what I paid. So what are you kind of suggesting if we were to do a resale now? We're probably, are we 19, probably 3 years out from 20 years in the lease. Does the lease expire naturally, or will we have to break the lease regardless how long it goes on? And the resale value is how do you value a resale if either you're in lease or out of lease? That's kind of my question.
Yes, that is the actually the key question when you want to go the resale exit way. The commercial lease is it's a commercial lease where used properly. It's not a problem because the buyer would be guaranteed revenues, etc. But it doesn't work like that, as we know. So the best, in my opinion, the best way to do, if it's an emergency situation and you have the bank and that want to repossess, then you sell it with the commercial lease or whatever, because in any case, what you are looking for is a better price than a public auction. So that is only if you have a current attack from the bank to repossess the apartment, then you don't care. Lease, no lease, whatever, sell it more. But that's not exactly the question you say. The thing is, if you don't have a mortgage issue or not under duress of a proceeding to repossess the apartment, then the evaluation is mainly the value of the property on site. And as I say, the French Riviera is very valuable, as everybody knows. So you would not be confronted with the problem that people have in the Alps, where sometimes they have a beautiful place in Megève, but there's no snow, because that's the problem. If you go to different places, especially with the warming up and all the issues. Another place like in Bordeaux, it was inundation. It was like it was flooding. So in the area, we would say where you are, but all the way down to Toulon is fine. There is no earthquake. There's nothing, even though officially it's a zone where you could be an earthquake, but there's not. So the value for those people that invest is based on the placement, where the building at Le Cristal is pretty good. I mean, there's no problem with that. And they would buy it, and they would just, if there's a lease, they would find a way to cancel it. Like I mentioned earlier, they would say, well, sorry, but you didn't pay. When you buy that property with a lease, you also acquire the rights that you cede to cancel the lease for the misfits that were there before. So the investors that show up for this kind of property in south of France, they don't really expect, they don't base their investment on the return through commercial lease. They look at this as once I get rid of the lease, I can have someone manage my property and have some rent that would pay for itself, like Airbnb, etc. So that's how in the last 2 years, that's how people are looking at it. of course, the COVID years were, in the way, but before that, it was like you described. Before 2022 or just the end of COVID, the people that were putting money down were looking basically at the cheapest price to get something on like 20% of the value, and it didn't really work well because people didn't, like you didn't. I mean, people didn't want to sell it at a depreciated or deprecated price. So I'm speaking of the market today and the way in the French Riviera, the base value would be acquire the property as is if there is a commercial lease and get rid of it and re-rent it, so that those rents through Airbnb, etc., would be how I get a return on investment. And that's a pretty good deal because, again, if you are renting in Cannes, you can rent an apartment 3,000 or 4,000 for even a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom during the 10 days of the Cannes Film Festival. Because if you rent, I mean, if you could just check yourself this year. You look, imagine you want to rent in May between the Grand Prix of Monaco and that, and the different activities of the festival, the Cannes Film Festival, but there's also fashion show and all that. You'd see that all of a sudden you go on the map with Airbnb and you'll see the price rise up. Like instead of being like 800 to 1,200 a week, you find 3,000 or 4,000 a week and say, oh my God, how come? Well, those people that rent, they get people. Otherwise, they would not put it. So you do that 3 or 4 times during the summer or the extended summer, and you are an investor, you're pretty happy. You can come back, at the end of the year with about 20, 30,000 in rent, direct rent. Now, after that, I cannot, say that everybody's going to think like that, but I know that the client that I had, help to sell 2 or 3 years ago, in the last 3 years, talk with their buyers, and that the buyer told them. It's not me that, I'm not a buyer myself, but their buyers say, no, don't worry about the commercial lease. We don't care. It's okay. We're going to rent. But it was always in a good place.
But does the commercial lease expire naturally?
Yeah, sorry you asked that question. I forgot that one. So no, the commercial lease, and that's why it's bad. Commercial leases are reconductible automatically every 9 years. So after 9 years, you can put a term, but then that's where the exit penalty comes in. You say, I don't want to renew, but you have to send a VCA 6 months before the expiration of the lease and tell your tenant, I do not want to renew. Then the tenant will say, well, pay me 3 years of the rent I paid you, but they would not do the deductions here. They would take the real rent before deduction. 2 or 3 years of that, and you're okay, we stop the lease. So it's a trap because nobody wants to pay 30, 40, 60,000 to a company that did all bad things to you just to break the lease. So this is not automatic. And what happens is if nothing is done, then it continues month to month. At Le Petit Lac, I broke the lease and the leases, but there are people that sign up with Goelia and they are with a lease with Goelia that goes on and on and on because they wanted just to, not to have any headache and rent it. But some other people are doing Airbnb and they are very happy with that. They make more money than they ever did before with MMV or Goelia. The key in looking at your commercial lease is to look at the periods. In other words, if you likely, like you say, already have passed the 9 years, if nothing has been done technically, like you were not proposed a new commercial lease or you didn't receive a letter from Vacances Olé to extend a new lease, then that lease is automatically renewed month by month and can be canceled at any time. But when I say cancel at any time, there is that exit fee that you have to be careful. In your case, you don't have any problem because they withdrew so much from your revenues, but there is a way to do it that has to be following the book on how to cancel a commercial lease when there is a fault from the the tenant.
Just to finish, I know Aidan wants to get back in, but we were probably all understanding that after 20 years, these apartments were basically handed back to us. That was it. The commercial lease was gone. We were free from our commercial lease. Is that true or not?
No, it's not true. It's not true, and that's basically why the Commission in Ireland and in France for Protection of Consumer has said it's mis-selling, because when you don't tell something that important, then you violate the consent of the person to buy, because you don't give a full picture. What they are doing when they do that, they are using the fact that you get the 20%, today it's 20%, at the time it was 19.6%, but let's say 20% VAT, you get you got to buy that place without VAT, okay? So it's like a 20% rebate. Well, the thing is, the French government gives you that if you keep that apartment as a rental for tourist rental for 20 years. It doesn't say that it has to be a commercial lease. This is a tax provision. You want the 20% refund on your VAT, you keep that apartment, renting it week by week to tourists, either directly or indirectly through management company. That's what the tax law requires. And if you don't, well, then you would have to pay the remaining out of 20 years VAT. So 1/20th of the VAT that you got back from the government, if you decide to stop renting it as a tourist residence, then, and that is not giving receptionist and the keys, I think, the breakfast or the sheets and the cleaning. That's what the government wants. You have the 3 out of 4 of the services that are written in the tax code, and you have to keep that during 20 years, or you lose a percentage of those years of VAT. You have to pay back the government. And they use that, and they tell you, oh, after 20 years, you're free to go. Well, because they could not say after 9 years, because there is that little tax incentive in the way. And it's an important one because it's 20% of the sale price, right, that you got back. So they have to say 20 years so that you can adjust after 9 years, fly, and then get the tax on you. And but the reality is,
Bruno,
the reality is 9 years renewable automatically on the commercial.
Bruno, that's interesting what you say. I know when we bought, we were told, and it's definitely misrepresentation if that's the case, because we were actually told that basically we have a get out clause after 10 years, or we have a get out clause after 20 years. And after 20 years that the apartment would be ours and that would be it. And the tourist residence ceases. That's what we were told. And we were also, I was aware of the VAT, that it's 1% per year, or it's over the 20 years that it is distributed, that if you got out of it earlier, that you would have to pay back the VAT. But certainly as regards the apartment at the end of the 20 years, which is about 3 years' time, that it should revert to us for us to do it, or come over on holidays with, or whatever, and not have to rent it out as a tourist residence. But you're obviously telling me that we're still stuck in a lease.
Yeah,
or we have to pay a release fee to Vaconsol. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, no. Well, let's say yes, they didn't reveal the truth, because the truth is, after 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, if you didn't cancel that lease, you would still be with Vaconsol. But I have better for that. If Vaconsol goes bankrupt, the lease would be transferred to whoever the commercial or the bankruptcy court would give the business to. So when the company goes bankrupt, all the assets are in management for a while, but then there are some people that buy out, the business. Well, they get the lease, so you don't have any say to it. So that to tell you how strong these things are. It's if you don't break your lease when you can, you're in it for a long time.
So yes, could I say, for instance, right, just thinking about this in a wider context. So if I said, well, I don't owe the bank anything on this, right? And if I were to say, okay, I want to get out of this in the morning, and I were to go and notify Vacansolve to give them 6 months notice, right, that they could charge me 60 grand, I think is what it roughly is, or thereabouts. But if I cut my losses at that 60 grand, then I would be able to go and get out of the lease, and I would be able to go and sell it then as a private concern. Would I be right in saying that? No.
And that's a problem. So the third layer, so the first layer is commercial lease, okay? The second layer is VAT, I mean the government 20 years thing. And the third one is the Meyer, the building permit. Originally, they built that building with a building permit to build a tourist residence, not to build an apartment building or not to build a business commercial building. It's a tourist residence building permit. So now, once you don't have that lease anymore, you still have to act as if you were your own commercial tenant, like, so you have to keep that activity, not because of the 20 years of the tax office duty to keep it 20 years, let's say it's gone, not because of the commercial lease, but because of the, I don't know the term.
The status of
the
tourism.
Status of the, there are some numbers and everything and categories. So that is why you would have still to keep the rentals through Airbnb or whatever. You could not live in. And sure that right now at this time we're talking, there's some people that got some kind of agreement with some owners to live in permanently, which is illegal. But if you don't get caught, it's fine. But at Liberty Lac, there is even a better situation. There are some people that have been put by the management company, Goelia. They've been put in place for 1 year, 2 year renewable. This is illegal. You can't do that in a tourist residence. And that is the problem. Is the third layer is in order to get rid.
Does that go on past the 20 years, Bruno?
Well, no, it's after 20 years. Yes, exactly. And the thing is, if you want to get it as your own apartment in out of the status of tourist residence and live in it, or put your kids in it, or your retirement home, you would have to do a special thing, which is to convert your apartment from tourist residence to full ownership, to own, and you have to pay a fee to the tax to the mayor's office for that. It is doable, and that is what James was speaking about this, but not on the right legal basis. You would take 50, 60,000 at the one shot with the mayor, and it would give you freedom from operating on your own as a freehold, as a freehold. But you cannot have a freehold without paying a conversion fee to the mayor because it's been, under a building permit.
I need to go, guys. I think as a group, we probably need to have another get together because, apart from getting out of the lease, I think your suggestions, Bruno, in supporting James and getting some sort of an injunction against these guys for over a year. They have you wouldn't believe the detail that they have, and they've done nothing. So there's negligence there that's now needs to get called out.
Yeah.
So sorry, guys, I need to disappear here.
Right.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you. So at this juncture, what I would like to offer you, not to take me as your lawyer, it's something much more direct. Get yourself together into a group, WhatsApp, whatever you want, and get other people in that and send them the link that I'm gonna have the link, maybe in 2 or 3 hours, but send them the link and they can look at what we discussed the same way, and then have a pre-discussion with them and sort out who wants to stay, wants to go, and all that in a really cool way, not as a commitment, of course, but each one has his own look on things, and we can then have a second meeting with with more people, and then it would be more like a Q&A meeting, because they would already know and they would have heard what we did today together, so they would have more questions than me explaining things that they would have already on that link. What do you think? And there's no cost. I mean, it's just
Yes.
The good thing is, if I could help you there, it would make a much better case for my two clients, because then they would be with you and they would be more force. There's only two clients fighting Nardi and Vacansoleil is not that great, but having more, force is in numbers, of course. So.
Bruno, sorry there. We probably have a get together anyway. We're semi-organized already in terms of a group. Just to give you the background, we set up a group. Am I okay, guys, to discuss this anyway?
Go ahead.
Yeah. This group that's on here and one or two that's exited, we've been together kind of for the last probably 2 years or so on a WhatsApp group. So we're actually pretty organized, and there's an awful lot of details shared. So we all know each other, kind of obviously through WhatsApp. We've already had a meeting last year, thanks to James, who kind of organized it here in Ireland. So we have a lot of background work done, and we kind of know what each other's issues are, like, as such. So we're not starting from here, like. We've already a bit of work actually in place. So we probably need to go back and talk to the group, separately, and see where everybody is at, what they want to think about, and maybe take it from there.
And share the link with the group. Everything I say is, first, I'm a lawyer, so it's legal. I mean, I didn't suggest anything that could hurt anybody, like at Nardi or Vacansoleil or whatever. They do their business, I do mine. And I put that out there. If the link goes into their hand because someone wants to share with them, great. And if they are listening to it, I say, well, maybe it's time to put your shit together and protect those people, because that's your job. You, Nardi, or Vacansoleil, because at some point someone did a wrong and they have to fix it. I'm talking about the maintenance issues, the leaks, etc. That is something that Nardi should be very concerned with if they look at that video. And if it's Vacansoleil, well, they better start paying the full rent and put in place something else to get, sorted out what needs to be paid back by the owner and what needs to be taken care of and paid for by the tenant, between the dishwasher or the plumbing that's leaking through the wall. Well, the plumbing that's leaking through the wall is likely the owner, the cost, and the insurance, of course. You also need an insurance on the apartment. And if it's a dishwasher, sorry, the article of the Civil Code doesn't say dishwasher is on the owner. It's only big repair, structural repair, they say. So, and again, I'm not afraid that this video goes into the wrong hand. There's no wrong hand, it's the business. And we can even set a meeting with, the syndic, which I know. I mean, they know me. Nardi knows me because they have me on their way at Le Petit Lac. So, and I don't know Vacansoleil. I know that they're a big group. I've seen what they're doing, but you can set up a meeting with separately. One with Vacansoleil, one with Nardi. After we have a second meeting with everyone, and take it from there. And if at some point you need a lawyer, then of course you know me at that time. You maybe have a tendency to go to me, or you have a friend who's a lawyer that you prefer. That's fine. Or we can have two lawyers on that. It doesn't matter to me.